Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. It is another Wednesday class from the Relationship Chef and the Love Language Kitchen. I'm going to be a little bit like Mr. Rogers, putting on my apron when I see you guys. So today we're going to make fish chowder. Very, very traditional North American dish. Not at all the European versions. I'm going to do plain old traditional. But of course, I'm doing it with European ingredients, so it's going to be a little bit different. But as always, I'm going to explain to you what I'm doing along the way. We can adapt and improvise, and I'll tell you what can be adapted and improvised. While I'm doing it, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Chef's Kiss, my date night program, date night cooking classes, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the magic and the beauty of cooking together, because it really is a great thing that you can do with your partner anytime you have the opportunity. But it's also fun to learn to be able to cook something new. So let us start. I have so much to tell you. I'm pre-recording this because I'm going to be in Genoa on Wednesday because I want to go get some cheese, some Parmigiano Reggiano, which I probably already told you. So I'm pre-recording this. This is Saturday. I really wanted to do this today. And then I went for a hike today that was far more challenging than I expected it to be. But I've recovered. And here I am making this. So it was dicey there a little bit that I wasn't going to get to do it. But I have the fresh seafood from the market yesterday, which was brilliant. And I'm excited to be able to do this. And of course, the offerings in Europe and Italy and an Italian market are different than the offerings at home. So again, I'm adapting and improvising, and things are going to be a little bit different. But I'll tell you as I go. So chowder. This is going to be, as all things that I'm going to do in the class, I'm going to explain to you that how to do it, give you sort of rough proportions for two people, but also, you can increase and jiggle things around a little bit. As I've said before, I really encourage you to intuitively cook and improvise as you go. Add a little more of this because you love it, add a little less of that because you don't love it. The one thing I will say is please, if there's something you really don't like, for instance, onions, let's just use onions in this example. If you say you don't like onions, so you don't put them in your chowder, your chowder is really going to be missing something. So there are certain things you can leave out and there are certain things you cannot. So if you have a question about that, by all means, feel free to contact me. Just find me on Facebook. It's Krista Melanson, Melanson, and I will happily answer your questions. If you want to talk about adapt and improvise. And you know what? I've got a half an onion here. Oh, last time I did an onion, it was a white onion. You didn't get to see me cry. I'm not great with onions, which is weird for a chef, right? But anyways, okay. So, in case anybody has missed the first couple classes, remember what I told you. Always have to put something underneath your cutting board so it doesn't slip while you're cooking. A wet cloth is what I use. Wet cloth or paper or wet paper towel, either one. Okay, so I've got that chopped up a little bit. I'm just going to find a little dish to put the excess onion in. I didn't end up using a half an onion because it was a really big onion. And that's too much onions. So, remember, this is only for two people. So half a small onion, a quarter of a big onion, that'll get you going. Okay, so we're going to, this is cool. Did you see the way I've moved everything around? It should be perfect. Okay, so I'm going to put some butter in this pan. We're going to saute the onions. And we want to saute them on a low temperature because we don't want to brown them. We really just want to it's more like you're sweating them until they get translucent and release some of their flavor. I'm going to say about 2 tablespoons of butter should be great. Put that aside. My fancy new knives. Put that there for a moment. I got something funny to show you that I'm going to be showing you in a little bit. So the butter started to melt because it's an induction burner, so it melts lickety splickety. It's actually kind of cool having everything right here, right? There's like no space, but it makes it easy. All right, so we've got the butter in here. I've got it on a 3 out of 9. I'm gonna poke it up to 4. I mean, I do want it to cook, right? There's no point in having it no cooking. Okay, so I've got the onion in there at a low temperature. We're softening it, not browning it. And then I've got a potato. I got a potato at the market yesterday. Look at me go. So over the years, there's been so many discussions in my family about potatoes and chowder. So it started off with the kids loving chowder, and then it ended up with the kids loving chowder, but not all the parts of it. And so has gone back and forth with mother, I don't want any potatoes in the chowder, to mother, it's got to be all potatoes in the chowder. So I've had them in regular chowder size pieces. I've had them in big pieces, so they're easy for the kids to pick out. It doesn't matter what size your potatoes are, just that you have to make sure that they are cooked before you add the cream or the milk, because they will not cook in milk. Strange story. I mean, after days they will, but the potatoes will not cook in milk. So, I mean, they will, but they'll take so much longer, so you don't want to do that. So I'm cutting them up in sort of this size piece. That should be fine. That will help them cook at a decent temperature. Sauteed. The onions are pretty much sauteed now. They're just soft, and hopefully you can see right in. I'm going to run around the camera and look and see what you can see. Okay. Oh, yeah. Woo. My knees are so sore after my hike. That running was a chore for me. Okay, so I've got that. The onions are softened. They're a little bit translucent. I can smell them. They smell amazing. I'm going to put the potatoes in, but I don't want to saute the potatoes. What we're going to do after we put the potatoes in is we're going to put enough water, or, because I have something really exciting to show you that you're all going to think is weird and creepy, unless you've seen them before, and then you won't, but I think they're weird and creepy. I'm going to put a little stock in here. Now, you only want to put enough liquid to just cover the potatoes. If you put more in, you're going to have to boil it off. So it's in your best interest to just put enough to cover your potatoes, because chowder's not watery, right? It should be creamy. And this brings me to a beautiful segue that I have to tell all of you nice people. The quality of a soup is not gauged on how thick the broth is. I'm going to repeat that. The quality of a soup is not gauged on how thick the broth is. So please do not use any fake thickening like flour, cornstarch, whatever weird things people use, to thicken your chowder. Chowder doesn't have to be thick like glue. That's a restaurant thing to make up for lack of taste. I've never put flour in my chowder or cornstarch or any other thickener, and I never will, because it doesn't contribute to the quality of the chowder. The potatoes, when they boil, are going to add a little bit of starchiness to the water. That's all you need. So First I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why it's amazing to cook together, right? Because you want to share time with your partner, and maybe you've got some really big things you need to talk about. Maybe you've gone to a couples counselor and they've said, let's dwell on the negative things and rehash the past over and over again and have awkward conversations, and then your marriage is going to be great. I don't agree. But we're all allowed to have our opinions, right? But the reason cooking is so good is because when you are with your partner cooking in the kitchen, you're, exciting all your senses, right? Smell, taste, visual, it's even auditory. You can hear the simmering potatoes, right? So you're having this multi-sensual experience with your partner. and you're talking about, is it time to put the potatoes in? Have they been there long enough? Who's going to cut the onion? You cut the onion, I'll cut the potato. All these things, you're having conversations. You're having fun, right? Because you accidentally cut 10 potatoes instead of one. It's like, oh, well, I guess we'll have mashed potatoes or whatever. You're having conversations. And when you improve your skills, having conversations with your partner about little things like this, then that spills over to the rest of your relationship, and you can have an easier time talking about the big things. So when you communicate and connect with your partner, you're learning valuable skills. Even if it's not specifically relationship related, you are still creating a bond and a connection in your relationship that will serve you in so many other ways. So remember I said earlier that I used a little bit of stock, right? So I was in the market. Oh, it was so beautiful. All this, I can post a video. I should post a video on YouTube about the market. It was so beautiful. But I went to this fishmonger, and I said, in my very best French at the market in Italy, because why wouldn't you? Actually, I always start with, I'm sorry, I don't speak Italian. And I have a little bit of French. So I went in and I said, I'm a chef and I do a cooking class and I need some fish. Do you have little bits of fish that I could use to make a seafood soup? And I said soup instead of chowder because they won't know what a chowder is. It's not a word that they use. And he said, oh yes, I do. And I said, I just need a little bit because it's just for the cooking class, but then it's only going to be me who's eating it. So he sold me this stuff. He had this assorted fish, which was great. It's got tuna in it. Wouldn't normally put tuna in a chowder, but today we're putting tuna in a chowder. We'll see how that goes. In North America, you can get little, if you go to the fish department, you can often get little packages or containers or by weight assorted fish, right? So if you are doing it from scratch, I would recommend you want to use, to make it a good flavorful and bountiful chowder, you want to use, for two people, you want to use about let's say half a pound of fish. And you can use whatever combination you want. You can use cooked mussels, so you would cook them and take them out of the shell, or if you could buy them out of the shell, don't use smoked, please. You can use mussels, you can use shrimp. I often will just put canned shrimp, drain the shrimp, and then put it in. You wouldn't need a whole can, you just want maybe a quarter to a half a cup of shrimp. Salmon, I love to use salmon trimmings. If you can get that at the seafood department, salmon trimmings are perfect. A little bit fatty and they're less expensive. And they only need to be little pieces because they're going to go in here. A haddock fillet is one thing that I love to put in. Haddock is great. It's a great white fish and it cooks up beautifully in a chowder. You could use sole or tilapia. Any kind of whitefish for the whitefish portion is great. Also, shrimp, that has also been discussion with my children about the shrimp. Mom, I want more shrimp. Mom, I want less shrimp. We like big shrimp. We don't like big shrimp. We like little ones. I don't like to use salad shrimp for anything really because there's not much to them. They're not great. What I love to use is a cold water shrimp. They're usually about maybe a little less than an inch long, but then they curl up when they cook. But they're pink. Number wise, I want to say like 70 to 100 per pound is you know how they do 31.40 or 15.20 or whatever. I think it's 70 to 100 per pound, but they're called cold water shrimp and they have such a sweet flavor. They're beautiful. And of course you would only put them in at the very, very, very end. But we're going to talk about that in a sec. So when the chap was there, he said, do you want some of these? And I'm like, what are those? And he said, they're great. They're for making stock. And I said, can you eat the meat? And he said, oh yes, for sure. But he said, there's not a lot of meat in them. So let me show you what he sold me. This is called a Mediterranean mantis shrimp. And I boiled these. I left this guy out so you could see it. It's really ugly. Like, I'm not going to lie. It's quite ugly. But that is what I used to make the stock. I just boiled them I've got them there. I'm going to take some out of the shell in a bit. But I boiled them to add a little bit of flavor to put in the stock, put in the chowder. So, yeah, that's Mediterranean mantis sheep. And all of it cost €5. He was really sweet. I think he gave me the mantis shrimp as a gift. They're so weird. Anyways, and so I boiled the mantis shrimp, and then I used that instead of water. But when I'm at home, I would normally just put water in them with the potatoes. So really, you know, it was a crime of opportunity. I had these mantis shrimp. Of course, I was going to try them, but just water is absolutely fine for this situation. Now, on my hike through the mountains today, everywhere I turned, they had fresh thyme, like just growing wild in the mountains. So I grabbed some fresh thyme. If I didn't have thyme, I would absolutely be using, or if I didn't have fresh thyme, I would absolutely be using dried thyme, which I have many, many times. But since I have this nice fresh thyme that I got from the mountains, it was funny. I climbed up the bank a little bit though, because I didn't want to get something close to the edge in case somebody had been hiking with their dog and their dog peed on it, right? Like honestly. So when you use thyme will usually come off the sticks fairly easily. I know I'm making this in a way it's hard to see. But if you take a stick of thyme like this, and you go against the grain, you can usually pull most of the leaves off. Sometimes you get the end bit in, which is fine. The top stems that don't break off will be very tender. You won't even notice they're in there. Okay, so my potatoes are almost done. I'll put a little more thyme. So if you're using fresh thyme, then you know you want to use maybe a teaspoon of fresh thyme, anything to give a flavor. What you can do too, if you want to use fresh thyme, is put the whole sprig in and then pull that out at the end. It works really nicely too. If you're using dried thyme, you want to use about half a teaspoon. So I'm going to put that in, help that release the flavor. I'm also going to put a little more because I boiled that dry while I was chatting away. And I'm also, to be honest, using a slightly bigger pot than I would. So the surface, it will boil dry a little faster because there's more surface area. It's shallow, right? Okay, so I've got if you can see, it's kind of nice. You can see it getting starchy because of the potatoes cooking. So I've got the potatoes. I'll just check them again. Yeah. So those are pretty much cooked, the potatoes. So next we're going to put in the fish. Now, here's my nice bit of fish from the chap. He was lovely. Sold me the creepy mantis shrimp, but he was really nice. And I have, Jesus, wrapped up well. Hold on. So here's my fish mixture for the chowder. Now, I'm going to tell you, when you put the fish in the chowder, once it cooks, it's going to start to break up. That's fine. You don't want it broken up a ton, but it's okay if it starts to break up because the fish is staying in there. So I've got nice pieces of salmon. I might just cut that a little bit. Some white fish. These ones are tuna. They're going to add a little oomph or a little je ne sais quoi. I'm going to cut up the salmon because they don't need to be quite this big. And then we've got some white fish. I don't know what kind of white fish it is because I'm in Italy and I trust them when they say, here, have this. So we're going to put the fish into the juicy stock stuff. Bones. We're not quite as rigorous about the bones in Europe the way we are at home because people panic if they get a little bone at home. And here, bones are not unusual. All right, we've got some nice white fish. I had to guess. I might say it's halibut. This is definitely halibut. I'm not sure what those ones are. And the tuna. Everything smells so fresh and nice. You really know what you're doing here in Europe. So when I was climbing the mountain and having my wonderful panicky trip through the hills, I told you there was tons of thyme everywhere, just growing on the side of the mountain. But you know what else was growing there? It was rosemary, which was really nice. Okay, so I put the fish in. We're just gonna let the fish simmer for a moment or two to get them started cooking before we add the cream. And as soon as you see the fish starting to turn solid, not translucent, then you know that it's cooked sufficiently. Now, I also want to tell you, if you're putting clams or mussels or shrimp in, you're going to do it very close to the end, because they really need to warm up. They don't need to cook at all, whereas these, we want to cook them. So I'm putting some pepper in. Here's the thyme. I found this at the grocery store the other day. In Italy, it's called timo. I had no idea. And what do we say about the salt? Never pour it in directly, put it in your hand. You're probably going to want no more than half a teaspoon of salt for now. You can always add more in the end. You cannot take it out, right? There we go. So the fish is cooking very nicely. I'm going to give that a moment more. And you know what? I might put a lid on that to keep it from reducing anymore. Mantis shrimp. So I should peel the ones that I cooked. They're making me a little nervous because they're weird. I also have some other shrimp. So these are cooked, right? If you're using raw shrimp, you can put them in with the fish. If you're using cooked shrimp, then you've got to do them at the last minute because they will get so overcooked if you don't. So let's take a look at the praying mantis shrimp. We call them that. Okay, I don't think I'm going to put any more liquid in. So I have limited bowls here. It's quite funny, actually. These look spiky. And I don't know about you, but when shrimp, lobster, anything like that are spiky, it really hurts my fingers. And then my fingers where they've been spiky are all get kind of puffy and weird. So there's the heads. Those in the garbage. I'll be making a run to the garbage tonight because I sure as sugar do not want those in the garbage overnight. So I'll be honest with you, I'm flying in the dark here. I've never seen these things in my life. I'm not sure how to shell them. Oh my Lord. Like, there's no meat in them. It's the smallest amount of meat I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, the guy said that there's very little meat in them, but it's lovely. And I Googled that shit, and it said it's like lobster. So look at that. From that big mantis shrimp, this is what I got out of it. So I'm going to put that aside. I'm not going to put it in the broth because I'm really kind of curious to see what they taste like. But man, I can see why people like them for broth because there's lots of shell and all that stuff. But in terms of something to eat, man, that's a whole lot of work for not much. So, well, here's the little thing, and it looks like a lobster tail too. I'm not gonna lie, I see the similarity between it and lobster. You got to get the little digestive tract out because that's gross. But I wonder if I were to, I don't want to get too sidetracked here because I'll overcook my fish. Use scissors to cut down his back. Oh yeah, a little more if you do it like that. Interesting. Okay, so that's a chore for another moment. A lot of work for not much reward. So the lazy part of me says, that's enough. Okay, the fish is coming along. It looks like it's mostly cooked, so that's perfect. We're going to put some cream in. Now, for all you lovely people who are in North America or somewhere where you can find this type of thing, I would normally use evaporated milk, not condensed, evaporated milk, like Carnation evaporated milk, but I couldn't find any here. Doesn't mean it's not available, it just means that I could not find it. So I'm using cream instead. And this is panna da cucina, which is cooking cream. Put that in, stir it around, and look at that. Doesn't that look like chowder? So you just put, so I don't think I told you how much stock to use, I apologize. So for 2 people, you're gonna use about 2 cups of water, but you're gonna boil it down. So it'll probably reduce to about a cup. You're gonna put the fish in, let the fish cook, and then you're gonna put another cup. How much was this? 200 ml. Yeah. Whoop! Shoot! I just got cream on my laptop. Haha. Not on the inside, the outside, so it's probably okay. So yeah, this was just a little under a cup of cream. We're gonna let that warm up in the sauce, and then we are at the point where we can add our little shrimpies. Probably more shrimp than I need, but that was what size the package was. And we're gonna warm these up, so if you're using clams or mussels, this is the point where you wanna add those. And can you see how beautiful that is, right? Colorful, there's some potato, there's some cream. It looks great. Now, I'm gonna get a spoon to taste it, because you must always taste and adjust seasonings. Why is it that when I want a spoon, all I grab is a fork, and if I want a fork, all I grab is a spoon? Okay. Oh, that's so good. So, the only seasonings are salt and pepper and a little bit of thyme. At the end, normally I would put some paprika in. I don't have paprika here. If you want to put paprika, it gives it a little zip of color, gives it just a little bit of another dimension of flavor. Only like half a teaspoon maximum of paprika, and actually a quarter of a teaspoon is probably sufficient in chowder for 2. If you use cream instead of evaporated milk, make sure you're using whipping cream so that it doesn't break. But at this point, you don't want to bring it to a boil, right? Once you've got the flavorings in. Just let me try it again, make sure I don't have to adjust. Oh yeah, that's fabulous. So it doesn't need any salt or pepper. Remember, the seafood's going to be a little bit salty too, right? So just keep that in mind when you're doing it. So that is basically fish chowder. So easy to make. You can make it in 15 minutes. I remember when my mom taught me to make chowder, it used to be something that she'd whip up when she got home when we didn't have a lot of time, and she taught me to do it. We'd always have tea biscuits with it. That's boiling a bit. I'm going to turn that down. We'd always have tea biscuits with it because that's just what you do, but I can't have tea biscuits here because I don't have an oven. So I'm probably going to make myself a really nice salad with some of my spoils from the market. But that is chowder. If you and your partner want to cook together and want to have the opportunity to enhance your conversation, to make conversation easier, doing the little things so that you can work as a team and solve the big things, cooking is a really great way to do it, right? But if you're making this for your partner, surprise, honey, look, I made us fish chowder for dinner. They're going to love it, and they're going to love that you made the effort to do something.